Today's reading from Living Wisely, Living Well, February 26th. Swamiji writes, "A key to introspection is to focus on the rhythms of your breath, on its calmness or rapidity, on its force of flow, on the location of that flow in the nostrils, on each pause between the breaths, on the relative length of inhalation to exhalation. In sleep, for instance, exhalation is twice as long as inhalation. Your breathing is a reflection of your mental state. As you watch it, you will find yourself becoming inwardly calm, and your stillness in turn will deepen your introspection." So we have quite a lot here in this reading. Not just in terms of what he says, which is a lot, but even all the things that are hinted at, these different techniques. And really it's the essence of the spiritual path in a way, at least of Raja Yoga. The main technique of Raja Yoga is meditation. And so many techniques of meditation involve the breath. Also, one great benefit of meditation is calming the mind, and in addition to just the enjoyment of calmness, or I was going to say the peace of calmness, if you can say such a thing, but especially because Master listed calmness as one of the manifestations of God. Really, calmness is a divine experience. And so all of this is again referred to in this reading. I remember when I first started to meditate, when I discovered Autobiography of a Yogi through a friend had given it to me, a friend I met that day referred me to it on the first day of our meeting. But then I read the book. I was quite inspired by the book. Also, along with the book, I had ordered from Ananda the Lessons in Meditation, or How to Meditate book by Jyotishji, and also the 14 Steps course, which is now called the Raja Yoga course, Art and Science of Raja Yoga. And when I began to meditate with the Hong Saw technique, I found it challenging at first to mentally say Hong when you inhale, Saw when you exhale. In fact, I even got it wrong. It said, chant Hong. The chant of Hong follows the inhalation. And so what that means is they are to be done simultaneously. Hong, as the duration of your inhalation. I thought follows meant comes after. So I would go, Hong, Saw, mentally, but still wrong. And so that's why it's helpful to learn these things in person, or at least from a video, or at least ask questions, none of which I did. But I did what I could. Now, when I started doing it though, even though wrong, I found there was almost this exhilaration, there was this energy rising, there was this excitement, as if somehow I was unlocking something within myself, as if this was a key that not only had I been missing, not only had I been seeking without really knowing what it was, but perhaps that I was even reconnecting with or rediscovering. There was something familiar about it. Somehow I knew this would work. This was it. This was the key to my superpowers that had been hidden heretofore. And so that beginning time that you have in the spiritual path and meditation, in coming to Ananda or some spiritual place, that those early days, it's good to remember those. Yoganandaji, in another context, encouraged people to look back on their earliest days, the honeymoon period, you could say. Really, the honeymoon with God never ends. And so it's not something that we should look at, yes, back in the early happy days as opposed to now the painful slogging. No, there's always some slogging, but if it's too painful, then the fault lies within us, and we should find some way to lighten up. So in any case, that remembering those early days can be helpful. It's also nice to mix with people who are new on the spiritual path. Acharya Hari or Nayaswami Haridas has said, the old dogs can offer the new dogs guidance and help, wisdom even, but the new dogs offer the old dogs inspiration. And you say, well, I don't want to be a dog. It's fine. You could be something else. The old cats, the new cats, the old langurs. We saw some langurs recently in Puri. And I mentioned Puri for the following reason, that Hong Sa is mentioned, this technique of Hong Sa, inhaling with the chant of Hong, exhaling with the chant of Sa, watching the breath without controlling it, keeping the eyes uplifted. Those are the 3 parts of Hong Sa, the technique. There's a 4th part: when you inhale, bring the finger in; when you exhale, bring the finger out. And even though sometimes it's taught as optional, Master said it was a very important part of the technique. In the autobiography of a yogi, in the chapter Last Days with My Guru, and this, in fact, Yoganandaji's guru left his body in Puri. And as I mentioned, a number of us here from Ananda Chennai went with Dayaji and Keshavaji on pilgrimage. We just got back on Sunday, and it was very inspiring where Sri Yukteswarji's body is. It's worth going if you haven't. So there's a footnote for when Master received the title from Sri Yukteswarji, Paramhansa. And so the footnote reads, literally, Param, highest, and Hansa, swan. The Hansa is represented in scriptural lore as the vehicle of Brahma, Supreme Spirit, as the symbol of discrimination. The white Hansa swan is thought of as being able to separate the true Soma nectar from a mixture of milk and water. Hamsa, pronounced Hong Sa, are 2 sacred Sanskrit chant words possessing a vibratory connection with the incoming and outgoing breath. Aham Saha is literally, I am he. And so he gives the hint to this very important technique in Autobiography of a Yogi. Master also speaks of Hong Sa in the book The Essence of Self-Realization. If you want to be a master in this lifetime, Yogananda told a disciple, then, along with your other meditation practices, practice Hong Sa at least 2 hours a day. As a boy, I used to practice Hong Sa sometimes for 7 hours at a time, until I entered the breathless state of ecstasy. That's really the fulfillment of the technique, you could say, is to practice Hong Sa until you go breathlessness. First the breath stops, then the heart stops, and then they come back as needed. It's important to remember that you will get hints of this almost immediately, just in your breath becoming more shallow. Less breath coming in, less breath coming out is the beginning hints of breathlessness, as opposed to, oh my gosh, when will that ever happen? Or that only happens to Maha-yogis, not to me. It can happen to you. It's probably already happening. So noticing that the pauses between the exhalation and inhalation become longer, or the breath comes in and just stops. All of this is leading us to breathlessness, which is achieved through relaxation. Swamiji said breathlessness is not something you can try for. You can work to achieve because it comes in calmness, it comes in relaxation. That's the way to it. Also, one of the physiological reasons why the breath becomes less is because there is less need for the oxygen that comes in through the inhalation and less carbon dioxide that is expelled through exhalation when the brain is calm. So as you meditate, as you practice Hong Sa, as the brain becomes calmer, then the brain, by the way, I should mention, uses 75% of the oxygen you take in. And again, is the large producer of the carbon dioxide waste. But when the brain is calm, then it doesn't need as much oxygen, it doesn't burn as much, and it doesn't produce as much carbon dioxide. That's one physical reason why your breath becomes shorter and why it's safe, in particular, for your breath to be less. When your brain is deeply calm, it doesn't require anything, and that's how you can go breathless. There's much more to it than the physical reality. I don't mean that it's all just a product of brain and blood chemistry. However, this is one physical explanation of what is going on. Master also says, practice Kriya Yoga so deeply that breath becomes mind, for the breath is only a gross dream from which you will awake someday in superconsciousness. I'd like to... Well, I was going to skip this one and I just can't bring myself to. So, Master also said, if you eat your dinner and then run, how will you expect to enjoy what you've eaten? Certainly your enjoyment will increase if you rest a little afterward. The same is true for your practice of Kriya Yoga and, of course, other meditation techniques. Don't jump up the moment you've done your Kriyas. Sit still a while. Enjoy the inner peace. That is how intuition is developed. Prolong and deepen as much as possible the peaceful after effects of practicing the techniques. No matter how much the organization keeps me busy, I never forego my daily tryst with God. Faithfully I practice Kriya Yoga and meditate. Some of those who come here, meaning came to join him at Mount Washington at the ashram, and later return to the world, go out with a spirit of rejection. After a life of renunciation, they renounce any further spiritual effort. They don't know what they had here. Please, all of you, realize your good fortune. How easy the spiritual path is if you give even a little time each day to meditation. Meditate intensely, morning and evening. Even 15 minutes of meditation is better than no time at all. Better still, make it half an hour or even 1 hour. Do 108 Kriyas, chant Om at the spinal centers, then listen inwardly to the sounds. If you like, resume your practice of Hong Sa, or do Bhakti Yoga, devotional self-offering to God. Practice watching the breath with Hong Sa in the spine, if you like. Go up and down the spine with it, instead of watching its flow in the nostrils. Tell your body, if you don't meditate regularly, I will give you a whipping. Meditate even 1.5 hours at a time, if you can. Everything you do, even if it is only picking up a straw off the ground like Brother Lawrence, offer it mentally to God. If only you will do that, He will reach down and help you. That's from Conversations with Yogananda. Brother Lawrence was a monk in the 16th century, I think it was. I think so. There's a book called Practicing His Presence that's a combination of writings of Brother Lawrence and also a modern Christian saint, Frank Laubach. It's worth reading sometime. I thought I would also share, while we're on the topic of Hong Sa, Master's writings in his original lessons on Hong Sa from 1925. This lesson is entitled, Breathlessness is Deathlessness, which is something he would say all the time. Breath is life. If you can do without breath, you can control life, prolong it, and rise beyond it to the soul while living. To do without breath is not to force or suppress it in the lungs. To watch it is the preliminary step in controlling it. You can practice this lesson anytime. Sit erect wherever you are with the spine straight. Let's do this as he's guiding us. And relax. Close your eyes or fix the gaze of your half-closed eyes in between the eyebrows. And, with the greatest calmness, feel your breath as naturally going in and coming out. As the breath goes in, move the index finger of your right hand toward the thumb and mentally chant without moving your tongue, Hong, H-O-N-G. As the breath goes out, move the index finger away from the thumb and mentally chant Sa. The movement of the index finger is only to differentiate inhalation from exhalation. Do not in any way use mental willingness or force to let your breath in or out. While practicing, take the calm attitude that you are a silent observer of your natural breath coming in and going out, which you are generally not conscious of. meaning except during meditation you may not be conscious of this breathing. With greatest reverence and attention, practice this for at least 10 minutes each day. The longer the better. During day and night you can do it in leisure time. You will feel the greatest calmness in you, and by will realize yourself as soul, superior to and existing independently of this material body. Always sit on a straight chair with a woolen blanket placed over it and running down under your feet. Face the east and sit erect without touching your spine to the back of the chair. This exercise you ought to practice during your leisure periods, either when you are on the bus or trolley car, or sitting anywhere doing nothing. Just watch the breath and mentally chant Hong, Sa, without moving the finger, or closing the eyes, or fixing the gaze between the eyebrows, which might attract the attention of people around you. Just keep your eyes open without winking, looking straight ahead on some particular point. Keep the spine and head always in a straight line during practice. By conscious passivity, you can free the attention from sense entanglements. Breath is the cord that binds the soul to the body. Man lives in and requires the atmosphere of air, just as a fish needs water. By rising above breath, man rises into the celestial realms of the angels. By watching the course of the incoming and outgoing breath, the breath naturally slows down and calms the violent action of the heart, lungs, and diaphragm. The heart pumps about 12 tons of blood and gets 12 tons of blood a day and gets no rest at night as the other organs do. Hence, the most overworked organ in the body is the heart. And this lesson gives the scientific method to rest the heart, thus increasing longevity and liberating a tremendous amount of life current, which is then distributed over the body and electrifies and renews all body cells and prevents their decay. This marvelous Hong Sa exercise is the greatest contribution of India's spiritual science to the world, as it lengthens the span of man's life and shows the practical method to rise above body consciousness and realize himself as immortal spirit. Hong and Sa are two sacred Sanskrit chant words. In sleep, we experience sensory relaxation. In death, complete relaxation involuntarily takes place due to the stopping of the heart's action. By Hong Sa exercise, you can learn to experience the conscious death and rise above the fear and mystery of death. You can learn to leave the body voluntarily, honorably, and gladly, and not be thrown out roughly or be taken by surprise by death. This idea of leaving the body voluntarily, he at other times said, and also return. Inattention during practice of these lessons produces sleep. Concentrated attention will bring a tingling sense of divine life to every body cell. If time allows, practice the lessons longer than mentioned. Aside from the inward experiences, there also comes the greatest calmness. Hold to that calm effect of the concentration techniques during and after the practice as long as it is possible for you. When in our sort of way of talking about meditation, we refer to this as the expansion period or the silence time after the techniques. That's what Master is asking us to do. Again, hold to that calm effect of the concentration during and after the practice as long as it is possible for you. Apply the calmness in practical situations of life, in dealing with people, in studying, in business, in thinking, in controlling yourself, in getting rid of any fixed mental or physiological habit or condition that is considered unnecessary or harmful, and so forth. Whenever situations demand, recall immediately in mind the calmness felt during and after concentration, and fall right into that mood, and meet situations from that calm center. Remember, while practicing concentration, deep intensity of mind is necessary, but that does not mean that there should be any strain or strenuousness present. Practice it with reverence, and feel that in calmness and in listening to the vibration, you are contacting the Great Spirit who is present within you as soul and whose expression is vibration. Results you will positively feel. Calmness you will most certainly have. The highest intuitions come after a prolonged practice. Further, this technique puts you by and by in touch with the unexplored reservoir of power. Do not be impatient. Keep on. Get the lessons into your regular routine, so much a part of your day as eating or sleeping. The most beneficial effects flow silently over the whole mental and physiological constitution. Highest results, as in everything else, cannot be attained in one day. Practice, practice, and apply. We are talking from experience. Our students all over the country write us about their contact with the Great Spirit as a result of their faithful practice. Everyone can have the same glorious experience if he perseveres in his practice. It's so wonderful to hear from Master, and let us take this opportunity to rejuvenate and deepen our practice of Hong Sau and the other meditation techniques. God bless you.